And we are live and in action. I have Mr. Ken Dixon coming our way from Maryland. Shout out to that Ico Pro shirt. Big fan. So Ken, how goes it, man? You got something big coming up with Mr. TJ Marconi. Excited to have you on for the inaugural Toast with Tommy Tequila.
Yeah,
Tell me what's going on with you.
man, it's just wake up, work, rinse, repeat. You know what I mean? There's not a lot going on that's out of the ordinary for me. It's the day to day. It keeps going. I got other stuff coming up before Fight Factory, so it's all a nice big preparation for that big tall sumbitch on November 15th. It's just another day in the life. Besides, if I do have anything to complain about, who's listening anyway?
Well, my mom and my wife, I think, will be listening to this one at least. So
Okay,
you can complain to them.
thanks, Mom.
So I always got aggravated in The Wire, the disrespect that they had for New York. So I'm looking at this kind of like we got The Wire versus New York, right? Method Man doesn't get to get bullied by the guys out in Baltimore, right? So where do you see it? Is it, you never really hear a lot about Maryland and New York going head to head. How do you feel about where you're from and from the New York crowd?
So I don't know, man. I don't really subscribe to a lot of that. I see it with the Yankees and the Orioles. There's a lot of heat there, and the stuff on The Wire was great. Everything about The Wire was great.
Perfect show.
I don't know, man. I think New York people run a little too fast, a little big for their britches sometimes. Maybe they do need to slow down a little bit. Like TJ Marconi likes to run his mouth a lot. That's what he does, right? And I just kind of like to let my actions speak for themselves. Omar's coming.
Yes, I like that. So 6'6", 360-pound mountain of a man. What runs through your head getting ready for that?
A lot. That's a big dude. This is actually not the first time that we've met. We've been on before. He got me then, and I'm hoping that I've grown enough as a fighter and as a man that I can stand I can stand on my own this time, and I can chop that big sumbitch down. But the one thing about me is that I'm not a bitch, and my mom didn't raise a quitter, so we're gonna keep going.
I see that in your last two matches with Donovan, man. I mean, you get in there, you bring the noise, man. You got your reputation of being a brawling dude, beer drinking dude, and you come in and you live up to those expectations. How does your past matches in Fight Factory get you ready for Marconi?
Sean Donovan is not a slouch, man. I don't know if you guys have seen that guy. He's not a punk.
So, no, I didn't mean that at all with the question at all. Yeah, Donovan's a beast.
Wasn't put that way, but just like to go from being in the ring with Sean Donovan to TJ Marconi is not terribly, too far off base. It's just a size difference. So I'm gonna approach it the same way. Things. Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose, and on November 15th, it's not gonna be me.
That's what I like to hear. What does this match mean for you personally, coming in, having a back record with Marconi, having those two brawls? And honestly, when those tacks came out at War in the Shore too, that was one of the highlights of the show. And you put on a hell of a show with Donovan. But what does this match mean to you personally?
It's just always been a privilege to be a part of Fight Factory. It's such a phenomenal presentation that goes into everything. And the two shows that I have been a part of have just been flawless from beginning to end, like from the talent to the people that are there, to all the production and just everything that goes into it. So it's my privilege to just kind of be a part of it and to deliver. People want to see some action. People want to see somebody win. People want to see somebody lose. So it's my intention to win. So, that's how I'm looking at it. That's how I'm walking into it. I'm doing what I have to do to prepare. I don't really watch a lot I don't do like the tape study stuff like everybody else does. I focus on myself. What do I got to do to make myself better? You know what I mean?
So I want to know your training regimen for a guy that's known for slugging beers. You got some body type, my guy. I want to know what beer you're drinking. you got a good look to you. You come on in, and your look shows that you're ready to fight, and you do fight. You come on in. So are you training on top of a step stool? Are you going against bigger guys? How do you get ready for a big guy like Marconi?
he's got joints that are just as flexible and just as susceptible to injury as everyone else. I do have a really good trainer that's been helping me with my mobility and just kind of, training smarter as I've been getting older. So that kind of stuff has been like a fountain of youth for me, to be honest. He's not a slouch himself. He's a bodybuilder, and he's ex-Marine, or I don't. There are no ex-Marines. They're all Marines, like until they're dead, right? But nevertheless, shout out to Eric at En Route Personal Training. He's a monster, and he's helping me become more of a monster, and just keeping myself limber and keeping myself ready, and I'm in shape, and just making good choices. Like I got to make a good choice. Which limb I'm going to take from TJ? You know what I mean? How am I going to turn him down? So,
That's excellent, man. And like with this, like how did you get into this wild world? How did you first get, like, you talk about like changing it up, and like where you like what's the origin story of Ken Dixon? How'd you fall in love with this wild thing called professional wrestling and start going out being a road warrior?
Man, I actually didn't like wrestling when I was a kid. I didn't like it. I didn't want my brother liked watching it. We would watch it on Saturday mornings. Superstars would come on Saturday mornings, and I wanted to watch X-Men. We got in a couple of matches ourselves of fighting over who was going to watch mornings, and Mom and Dad laid down the law that we had to switch back and forth. And the weekends that he got to watch wrestling, I just kind of started enjoying it. It felt like the same thing, except they're real people. You know what I mean? Instead of cartoon drawings and whatever. I started watching right about the time that my favorite Shawn Michaels is like the tiger stripe Shawn Michaels with the stupid glasses and the hat. And
yep.
Like Mankind was making people throw up on TV. Like that was when I started watching. I just kind of got sunk into it. So how I broke into the business, it was like 2010, and I came back from a contract in Africa. And I was feeling 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I had some money in my pocket, and I went to a school near the airport. It was run by Gilbert at the time.
Okay.
And I went in and had the little tryout. They beat you up for a little bit. It was cool. They beat me up, and I was like, oh, I kind of like it, And I wasn't ready at that time, but I came back in like 2013, in like November 2013, and I got all signed up, and it's a really funny story about it, actually. I signed up, I paid my money, but I paid with a credit card, and we're going to circle back to that in just a minute. I paid up, and then, they're like, all right, cool, come in on this day and we'll start training. And I come into the school my first day, and the building is empty. There's nothing in the building except for a ring and Axel Rotten laid out in the middle of it. So I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, did I just get had? And I'm thankful. Sidebar, I'm thankful that I broke into wrestling. I was almost in my 30s. I was maybe like 27, 28 years old. So I broke in a little later than how most guys normally do. But anyway, I wasn't as naive. I was still naive, like we all are getting into it. But Axel was an interesting character. I learned quite a bit from him. Some days were better than others, and some lessons were what not to do instead of what to do. And that lasted for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then I came in and the school was locked up and it was gone. So here's where we tie back the story. I disputed the charge on my credit card because I didn't get what I paid for. And I got all my money back, and I was kind of floating around in Maryland, and I was talking to the owner of MCW, Dan McDevitt, and he was letting me come and pay dues and roll around with the guys before the doors opened. So that's how I was learning until it's probably the spring of 2014 when their school opened, and that's where I've been ever since. We had a brief period in like 2018 when the Ring of Honor dojo moved to Baltimore, and I got to train there with Joey Mercury and John Gresham and Will Ferrara, and
that's a cool experience.
It was very cool. It was very eye-opening, and there was a lot of good information, and that was a really fun time in my life to be associated with that. But all good things come to an end. COVID happened and the school wasn't open anymore, and that was about the same time I hurt my neck. So like that opportunity turned into what it turned into, and it is what it is.
I'd say there's a lot of stories that go like that, man, for a lot of different businesses too. But I mean, you came out on top, man. I see you got a lot of strong bookings. You're out there, man. You're working. How many days do you put in, would you say, per year?
It goes up and down. I do a lot of my work in Maryland because we have so many dates that I really don't have to go to a lot of other places. Sometimes I have to turn down dates here to go do other things just because I don't want to be stuck in the bubble. We do like 30 to, probably close to 30 dates a year here just in Maryland with MW. So if I don't want to go anywhere,
incredible.
But I do like to go other places because it's fun to meet other people. It's fun to like mix other styles. It's fun to work with other guys, and that's one of the things I like about Fight Factory is because it's such a melting pot of, guys that are signed and they're doing TV for, whatever company. And then, we got the top independent guys. And then there's just guys that are cutting their teeth locally. They're breaking in. And I just, like I said, I'm just happy to be a part of such a dynamic roster. It's crazy.
It's fun. Like I'm a fan. I've never been in a ring before. I've never done anything. So it's cool talking and learning stuff from Dave and Chris and Tommy who have done it, right? And as well as Josh. And I got involved with these guys from a sponsorship level and like sponsored the first show with my previous company and chatting it up. Like, wow, these guys are awesome. Like I've been a fan since I'm a kid. Like I've always loved professional wrestling, always wanted to be a part of it. And it was the response of the athletes. It was the response of the talent to Dave that just talking highly and like just being in my business and any business, whoever likes their bosses, and it was seeing that. I'm like, these guys got something. This is really cool. Like they're doing something special to get involved. And it's fun seeing the back and seeing the talent interact with one another. Like I didn't even know that. By the way, thank you and Sean for giving me 2 spots at the last 2 War on the Shores. Salute and Tequila with you. That was absolutely fantastic. But even before that, just shooting the breeze, I met you and your buddy Joe Keys before the show. It was awesome just hanging out with you guys and talking, and just it's a cool vibe. And like, is that a normal vibe for the independent scene? Like what you see in that locker room?
It can be. It depends on what locker room you're in. If you're in a good locker room, it depends on where you're at, man. Wrestle Pro is a locker room like that. Where I'm at in Maryland is a locker room like that. Like Luke Hawks and Wildcat Sports has a locker room like that. It's locker rooms where guys know that the show wins when everybody participates and does their best for the show. It's cool to go out and steal the show with your match and do that kind of stuff. But like ultimately at the end of the day, the show has to win because we want to come back. So it's not it's not always like that. Like, there are some shows that are just kind of, you go, you show up, you get it in and then you leave. But, I try not to be in those locker rooms because I can't grow like that. I don't like to be the big fish in the pond. If it's, if I'm the biggest fish, then I got to go find a new pond to swim in.
I like that. I really like that. That's cool. And in terms of like the talent you're wrestling, like the fans that you're wrestling in front of, the Fight Factory fans very well because you've literally been fighting right next to them the last 2 times that we saw you on Fight Factory, in the crowd with Sean Donovan.
Yeah.
But they're loud, they're rowdy, they're real. Like, what do you feel about the New Jersey crowd? And do they fuel you up with any type of energy for your matches?
They absolutely do. The crowd is 100%. The crowd 100% is, they're a big part of the match. I'm going to give them what I have, but if they want a little more and they let me know they want a little more, I'm going to give them a little more. They're always known for being a little more rowdy, and I appreciate it. I like it when they tell me what they like, and I like it when they tell me what they don't like. And, there's some of them are really creative, and sometimes they yell certain stuff, or they play, I love signs at wrestling events. I don't see them too much on the independents, but like when I do, I always appreciate it. It's effort, right? I appreciate the effort. We're out there giving our effort, and when they show up and, just by buying the ticket and making that effort, like that's already I'm ecstatic because they enabled me to do my job. But all the extra stuff, like the stuff that they say, just, being into it and bringing good energy, man, I can't thank it enough. I think they're great.
That's awesome. I think they think you're great too. You guys are you were definitely talked about. I was walking around the crowd after that event. I mean, that was such two awesome matches with Donovan, and I hope that chapter is not closed because I would love to see you guys again. But I think you have a fan base here with the Fight Factory crew.
Good. I'm thankful for that. It's crazy how much they have with not really a lot of shows under their belt. I think this is probably number 4 for them.
This will be show number 4 and the first ever indoor show.
Yeah. Which is and it's crazy to see that tickets are already flying. You know what I mean? Stuff's already sold out and certain sections are already sold out. And it was like that for the outdoor shows as well, So it just really goes to show what they're all doing in the office, with the talent they're putting together and these matches that they're making, it's stuff that people want to see. So, hats off to them. And again, I'm just super happy to be a part of it, just kind of bring what I bring to the table.
Super to have you here as well, man. Tickets are still available. Starland Ballroom, Saturday, November 15th. You haven't gotten them yet. Like Ken's saying, we got a bunch of stuff that is sold out. Front row is sold out. Front row stage is almost sold out, so get your tickets now. But let's talk a little bit more about your opponent. 360 pounds. I feel like he feels like he was robbed of that open weight title in the battle royal that we had that Mr. Steeler went on and had. So I feel like he's going to be paying attention to Gibke and Steeler's match to see who wins that and who's going to walk out the open weight champion. Is that a title? Is that something that's on your mind? Or just focusing on Marconi?
It could be. But I got this right in front of me, right? I don't want to look past him. It seems like he might be looking past me a little bit if he's got his eyes on a belt. I mean, I don't wear a belt, but I can, and I can whoop his ass with it if he wants to worry about a belt. But for me, man, I got to look at what's in front of me. Some guys like to be 2 or 3 steps ahead, and they like to play 3D chess and all this other crazy shit that they want to say. There's no cliches, man. I'll play checkers all day long. And I take what's in front of me. We live this, a mile at a time. TJ Marconi is a big dude. It's not my first time touching with him. So, I got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder to avenge that loss. So that's kind of how I'm walking through this.
I'm excited to see it, man. I'm excited to see what you guys do together. And you mentioned it earlier, pro wrestling's evolving pretty fast, right? Yeah, you see some monster TV deals, social media.
Mm-hmm.
There is a ton of independent talent out there and independent companies. We danced around it a little bit and you praised their glories. Where does Fight Factory fit inside of that landscape? What makes it? What's going to make it matter right now to be the next GCW, to be the next House of Glory, right? What's the next steps? Where do you see that? Where do you see Fight Factory with those guys?
So I think if they want to set themselves apart, they don't need to worry about being the next GCW or the next House of Glory. They need to worry about being the first and only Fight Factory. And that's what's going to set them apart. Trying to run somebody else's recipe, it never really works out, right? You get into some of these locker rooms and these cheese dick promoters want to be Paul Heyman and they give you the welcome to the dance speech. And it's cool, but somebody already did that. And that's, if you want to repeat stuff like that, you can, but wrestling fans aren't really that dumb. Some of them are. But a lot of them, they know what they're seeing, and they know when they're watching copycat stuff. So I think, with the roster that they've developed and, the reputation that they're building for bringing these just crazy, crazy stacked shows, I think it's up to them to, carve their own niche and be their own product on the scene, because that's what set them apart so far, with the shore shows and what we've got on the table for November 15th. You know what I mean? But there's like you said, there's so many tools at our disposal now with social media. And I think another big thing that I think a lot of good independent promoters have noticed is that with the rise of tickets for WWE, it's the independents' opportunity to step up and make that, make our product more attractive and make things more appealing to those families who can't just pick up on a Monday night and, you know what? Where everybody's home, let's go to Raw tonight. You can't afford it anymore. It's a small vacation.
It's a mortgage.
It's a mortgage payment if you want to go Monday Night Raw or to a pay-per-view anymore. So I think the independents have a huge opportunity to capture that audience who may be looking for an alternative for affordable, family-friendly, action. And that's where they can be different than GCW, because GCW is fun and it's a great product, but it doesn't really appeal to the family. That's one of the things that we do in Maryland, I think, very well. It doesn't really do much for our footprint on the internet, but like the internet doesn't buy tickets. That's how I feel about it. The internet doesn't buy tickets. So to appeal to a family that wants to get out and do something fun, they don't have to get a babysitter. They don't have to worry about their kids seeing something or hearing something they shouldn't. And, I say that while I'm looking into the camera and looking at my reflection back, because I got to do things that are a little bit more family friendly. I say some things I shouldn't say, but
it doesn't make you a bad guy. We understand who you are, Ken. It doesn't make you a bad guy. You do what you got to do to get you ready for this match.
Right. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress, right? None of us are perfect. But I digress. I think it's a great opportunity for Fight Factory to kind of carve its own niche in wrestling, and I think that kind of forcing it might not be the way to go. Like, things are happening organically. I think, to kind of ride that wave and see what else happens organically.
I agree. And just being on this group chat with these boys for the last year and a half, I think that's exactly what they're trying to do, carve their path to be the first Fight Factory, which is amazing. And there's so much cool stuff going on, like we're saying, and you took the words right out of my mouth in terms of ticket sales. The bang for your buck that you get for an independent show, specifically with Fight Factory Wrestling, there's really not much better. I mean, our last show, you had 4 different champions. You had the House of Glory champion, you had the ACW champion, the GCW champion, the NWA champion.
Yeah.
That's a lot of talent on one show. Like if you're going to spend $30 and saw all of that, that's incredible. And I think that's what the fans are hungry for going in. I think there's a lot of big names, a lot of big lights. There's so much opportunity for talent. Like guys, like there was just a big string that was released from WWE, right? Those guys are going to be coming onto the independent scene now looking for bookings. You have the WWE ID system, which I think is so cool and different.
What is it? What is it? I don't know what it is. I think it's like goofballs and tracksuits. Like, what is WWE ID? What is
Are you talking about Italians, goofballs, and tracksuits?
I mean,
so WWE ID is essentially they see somebody that they like, but they're not ready to bring them into the performance center. So they're going to stipend them for travel. They're going to stipend them for gear, and they're going to put just a little bit of their dust on them. Say like, hey, we see you, and go out, keep on wrestling, keep on doing your independent thing. And we're going to be following you around, helping you out to make sure that you're out there. And I think it's recruiting and engaging in that independent scene. Also with certain places that have their own schools, right? You'll be able to, you qualify for having the WWE guys come and do to coach you guys up, to do a special class for when they're in town and running. There's a specific WWE ID belt that can be, competed for at any event that they're going to.
I saw all this stuff on Twitter, man. I saw all this stuff. But like, what is it? Right? Nobody knows what it is. We know what they tell us. We know the smoke and the mirrors that they tell us, and we see the really cute tracksuits. Like, for example, this Saturday, October 18th, I got Brad Baylor. And it's really cool that he's got a WWE ID, but I don't even think he has a real ID. Like, can he even get in the bar? Like, he's got these kids, man. But look, they're all just kids, and they all just need an ass whooping. So, you know what I mean? You can feed them around, and they can get around, and, whatever. But anyway, we're talking about Fight Factory, not WWE ID. So enough of that crap.
Yes, sir.
Enough of that junk.
It's it's just a unique way to get like that. It's funny. Dave and Payne will go into it too, kind of the same sentiment of what you're saying. Now I see why they feel so highly of you guys. I got Dave or Payne on the other line right now talking about this stuff. It's great. Again, I'm a fan. I'm on one of the boys, so I see it in a different way. But yeah, when you look back on this growth, you look back on this the birth of the Fight Factory era, let's call it. Where do you see where do you see this style of wrestling from where it was when you started in 2013, and where do you see the independent scene maybe 5 years from now? Like, where do you see the evolution for it with what's going on compared to where it's come from?
It's changed quite a bit, but like the wheels, doesn't need to be reinvented, right? I think the things that have changed have been due to the lack of attention span from the fan. You know what I mean? Like, we're given information and we're given content like so fast that we just expect action, 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 action. So like independent wrestling and wrestling in general has to follow suit or we lose. I think that's why you notice a lot of like the jump cuts on TV now, because you have to constantly be flashing something new at people because they can't hold their attention anymore. And I think where independent wrestling can, or has evolved in that same style is that, kind of it's not always my cup of tea, but I can understand it and I can appreciate it, is like, the super high spot driven wrestling, and I really only see that in the Northeast. That's why, like, when I come to New Jersey and I have matches, people are like, "Oh, I like your old school. You wrestle like you're in the South." Like, I live in the Mid-Atlantic. Like, I'm not from the South. I like to entertain people with characters because they're relatable. Nobody knows what, Jordan Oliver's super, flippy dippy donkey fuck 450 driver feels like. Nobody knows what that feels like. But when he's a character, and he's more of a character now since he got hurt. He can make them feel it in other ways, right? And I think that's where we have the opportunity with independent wrestling. It's a little bit more intimate of a setting as opposed to a cold arena. And I'm curious to see where it goes. I don't know where it's going. I don't have my finger on the pulse like some guys do. I kind of just, I see what's happening. I know what I like, and I kind of like to do things that I like. My target is not the internet wrestling fan. My target is dad who's coming with his kids to watch wrestling on a Saturday night when he'd rather be anywhere else after a long week at work. If I can make dad think he's looking at something that he's not supposed to be seeing, then I got him. You know what I mean? The kids are easy. Moms are easy. Dad who does not want to be out of the house on a Saturday after working all week. That's my target.
That's an intelligent play too, man, because that's the person's paying for the ticket. So you hook them, it all comes in after. Well, I love your style, man. I'm a dad of two, and I can tell you got my ticket in the day. I like seeing Ken Dixon's name on the card.
Sweet.
And to close it out, last chance before November 15th to speak to the Fight Factory crowd, but more importantly, to speak to Mr. TJ Marconi. What do the fans need to know before you step into that ring with 6'6", 360-pound Goomba?
Look, man, first thing they need to do is they need to get their tickets, right? Because they're flying, right? The boys update to social media often. If you're not following Fight Factory first, like, what are you doing? You need to get on board. You need to follow them on social media. You need to learn that these tickets move quickly. There's not going to be a bad seat, but if you want a better one, you probably should act pretty quickly, right? And as far as TJ Marconi is concerned, like I said, man, my mom didn't raise a bitch. I'm not a quitter. So I'm coming on the 15th. I'll be there, and there will be no thanks given to TJ Marconi because I'm going to chop that motherfucker down, and then I'm going to drink a beer, and, I'm not sure if I want to drink beers before I drive home or maybe while or maybe after. I'm not sure. But regardless, TJ Marconi, I'll say it again like I say it all the time. If you're bad, I'm worse.
I love it. Can't wait to see it November 15th. Like Ken said, make sure go out there, get your tickets. They are moving fast. This is going to be a good one. These two guys, they come on in ready to fight, and they always put on a good show. You can just watch back on MyFandom or on the Fight Factory YouTube to see what they've done in the past. They do not disappoint. Ken, thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure, and very much looking forward to seeing you in November, my guy.
All right, take care, Tommy.
Cheers. Thank you.